Hello and welcome to What's Coming and How to Prepare, Mytech's 2022 IT forecasts. One of the things that our team has asked us and our clients continually ask us is, how do you help me look into the future at least a little bit? Now, one of the phrases I like to use is, the further out in time I look, the fuzzier my crystal ball gets. So we're not going to look out too far into the future, but we are trying to give you some ideas as we go into the fourth quarter of 2021 to give you some ideas on how to plan for and things to look for in the coming year, at least to think about and potentially budget for changes or things you want to be able to impact going into 2022. So that's what today's about. A couple quick takes. I think that these are some of the impactful moments that will come out of today. So one of them is solving the hybrid work paradox will be the challenge of the decade. Now, I thought this statement was pretty impactful, and it came from a Microsoft and LinkedIn study that they talked about the innovation of hybrid work. We're going to talk about more about that later, but I thought that was very impactful. This is a challenge that is not going to, it's not just now, it's going to be here in the coming decade. The other one that I thought was impactful as I did some research on this session is many leading cyber insurers have imposed minimum security control requirements in order to just provide cyber insurance coverage terms. Now, that is not to say to change your premiums, or is your premium going to be higher or lower, like if you're a good driver or a poor driver, for example, when you go for car insurance. This is minimum requirements to even be able to provide coverage. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today too, as far as what to look for in the coming year. All right, so the purpose of this session, we hope to increase awareness, really, and frame critical topics organizations we believe will need to address in 2022. When we say need to address, we mean we think that these are going to impact nearly every organization, and we hope that to increase some awareness so you can hopefully help make decisions about how you think they will impact your organization or not in the future. Then we're going to review the two key areas that we have found in our research and digging into our partners and what we're seeing across our clients and prospects, the companies we work with, is review how the hybrid workforce era is here. And we're going to illustrate why and what IT security standards are going up. So those are going to be the key pieces of content today. And at the end, we'll have the Q&A and action items. By the way, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Nate. I'll be facilitating the session today and going through things. And we've got Stephanie Kingsley behind the scenes producing. If you have any questions, either now or throughout this session, please go ahead and post them in the Q&A, and we will either answer them offline or dig in. So thank you very much for that. And real quick, one little thing about Mytech. We are a business and technology consulting organization that we work with small and medium-sized organizations. Our goal is to help you implement a proven IT strategy that's in alignment with your business goals, of course, that will then remove IT challenges and hopefully allow you to be more adaptable to the other business challenges that we all ultimately face. This session actually is very much speaking to all those other challenges that we ultimately face, and we are going to try and give you some solutions, whether or not it's someone you work with Mytech, but give you some ideas and some solutions and recommendations you might be able to employ on your own. We hope that if you did work with us, and if you do work with us, that together our clients can achieve 4 times more value and productivity from their IT investments. If you'd like to learn more about that, please raise your hand or shoot us a note. We'd love to have a conversation to see if we could be a good fit for each other. But that's not why you're here today. So let's dig in to the hybrid workforce era is here. That's what we decided to call this section and this content, as far as the challenges that we've seen evolve over the last couple of years that have put additional pressure since the pandemic. But now that we are in this nearly over but not yet place, and we've all seen some of the advantages and disadvantages of remote work, what does that look like for the rest of us as we navigate forward? So I found a couple key items that I thought were interesting. Ultimately, no one can predict how things will shake out, but history has shown us there is always opportunity in turbulent times. And again, the companies that are adaptable and are able to continuously innovate will have the advantage. I think ultimately that's one of the reasons why we're bringing this information to you, is that there are a couple key pieces of information. As I did some research, Microsoft has did a survey of all 160,000+ of their employees, and LinkedIn has also worked together with Microsoft, and they found that they called a couple things: the hybrid work paradox And by the way, we'll share this reference information in our follow-up communication, and the Great Reshuffle. And this is trying to understand that it's not about all remote or all in person. It's about there's different expectations for different people in different roles, in different situations. That's the paradox piece. And this next slide will kind of illustrate that a little bit further. And the Great Reshuffle is people are reconsidering where they want to work. And I don't just mean home or the office. I also mean the companies for whom that they may want to work relative to how companies like us and like yourselves handle this hybrid era. So that's one of the reasons why we want to share this information with you today, is to hopefully help you be more prepared and figure out what makes the most sense for you. So I really appreciate this. This is a subset, or this is the information and some of the categorization information that came out of one of Microsoft's studies. But it gives you some examples of reasons to work from home and reasons to work in person. A couple of illustrations that I find, this is an example of the paradox, is that there's no one size fits all to this situation. There's tons of information about all remote or all in the office, but the reality is that moving forward, it's going to be a combination of both, depending on how you choose to address it. And that's where the opportunity lies, is how can you work with your team and work with your roles and your clients, et cetera, to deliver what you need to do and be able to foster the right employee experience that'll help you retain top talent. So what I find interesting is that these are the team members of Microsoft who voted, and they have more reasons to go in the office than they're saying to work from home. But there are significant consensuses amongst having a work-life balance when you're really trying to focus, or the fact that you want to avoid your commute are good reasons to work from home. However, there still are quality reasons to work from the office. The highest one in particular is social interaction. We are social beings, and collaboration with your coworkers. So I think those are really important components to recognize as you're moving forward and as you're considering, well, how am I going to address this hybrid workforce era? So it's not one size fits all. And the other thing I'd like to note about this slide is that it wasn't unanimous on any of these. There was definitely some folks that felt that the same reasons why some people decided it's good to stay home is why it's good to go to the office. And some people that said there's good reasons to go to the office, they felt those were reasons to stay home. So again, there's no real one size fits all solution here. Again, we'll provide the references to here in case you'd like to look into it more, or dig into the research or the data a little bit more to see how it might apply to your world. All right, moving on. Here are some of the key challenges that we've identified that we believe organizations, and so we're going to focus on the technology side of things because that's what we do, but it is the human element of the communication and collaboration, and of course security, and hopefully keeping you productive. So let's talk about hybrid conference room experience. Before the pandemic, we were nearly all in person, and now for the last couple of years we've been nearly all remote. However, the problem is that we're coming back, and so it's a combination of both. So hybrid meetings present unique challenges for both in-person and remote attendees. So, but you want to be able to try and improve the experience for all of the above: quality audio, quality video, collaboration and sharing, like if you're sharing a whiteboard or multiple people in the room or remote, or sharing their screens or sharing content, and of course making it easy for people to use. So one of the solutions that we've identified that we are helping our clients with is Teams Rooms. So that's one of the technologies that we have been recommending and that we've been leveraging, and that we, if this is a problem you're trying to solve, Teams Rooms could be an answer, and we'd love to have a chat with you if that makes sense. A little quote that came out of from Forbes is 83% of workers surveyed said they prefer a hybrid model in which they can work remotely at least 25% of the time. So if this is, it's a pretty high number, and this is an example of having meetings and making meetings productive and keeping meetings productive, is having a quality hybrid meeting experience can really help your team make sure they increase or keep their communication and collaboration productivity high. Another challenge that we identified is hybrid productivity from anywhere, meaning if you're in the office versus if you're working remotely. As conferences come back and people start traveling again more, how do we enable productivity across no matter where you are? Remote work with traditional technology can be frustrating and unproductive. So for instance, if you always have to connect your VPN, now just so you know, I'm not saying you shouldn't use VPN. I'm just saying that for some things, VPN may or may not be necessary moving forward if you're able to change this. But one of the things that we've heard from a lot of people that we work with is that connecting to the VPN is that extra step and a little bit of a frustration from a performance perspective from just feeling productive. Using remote desktop technology technology if that's something your organization leverages. Collaboration, like multi-user editing and being able to, send links of documents versus emailing documents around, things like that. Collaboration when you're working remote can be challenging, as well as if you're dealing with file lock issues and things like that. As well as quality of mobile access, being able to use apps on your mobile phone, or just be able to use applications and get good performance when you're working remotely. So one of the solutions that we recommend is Microsoft 365 Productivity. That might sound obvious. We have a lot of organizations that are using Microsoft 365, but we have found that very few of them have invested in helping their team use it well as being intentional about the design and the way your organization is going to use the technology to optimize the value and benefit that your organization receives. One of the other quotes that I found that was interesting from Forbes is that digitally fluent organizations have higher revenue growth and are more likely to be considered great places to work. So not only does investing in your team's digital fluency, such as being able to use these tools effectively and or migrating your organization to using these tools, that contributes to higher revenue, and it contributes to your team feeling like it's a better place, a great place to work. So there's some strong reasons to be looking at how your team leverages tools like Microsoft 365 Productivity. All right, hybrid voice experience. This is one of the other big challenges that we heard from our clients, including ourselves, as far as when we've going to a hybrid or remote world, is that many business phone systems are really not integrated and are not conducive to supporting a mobile workforce. Where you have your physical handset. I could actually point to mine over here. I still have one on my desk that I rarely use, but you have an extension that's tied to your physical handset, not integrated with other communication platforms, such as Teams or other platforms you might use. And it's rendered nearly useless when working remotely. If I'm working remote, no one can transfer a call to me. Now, again, I have Teams in front of me all the time, and I can make video calls from there or calls from there, but it's not necessarily something that's integrated to your handset unless you've done that. And the other thing that I thought was interesting relative to a hybrid voice experience is if you don't have any voice integration set up for maybe a soft phone on your laptop or mobile, and if I'm a team member using my mobile phone, well, now my caller ID is showing up as my cell phone, which people may or may not be comfortable with, versus the caller ID of your organization. Being able to do that from your laptop or your desktop if you're a remote or hybrid workforce person. So one of the things we recommend, and this is something that's just starting to become more prevalent, is something like Teams Voice, where you can actually integrate, or if you're using some sort other voice over IP protocol or IP voice over IP technology that might integrate with Teams, is another way to look at a hybrid voice experience. So that way your phone extension and the ability to dial, send a call or receive calls goes with you wherever you go, whether it be with your laptop or your mobile phone. So those are some recommendations that may be a positive influence effect on your organization if those are some challenges you have. Finally, relative to the hybrid era, one of the components that we've also heard a lot from our clients is that we have physical servers that are tied to the physical office. Now, when most people were in the office, it made a lot of sense because performance was better or best when they were sitting physically in the office next to or within proximity to their physical servers. Well, the physical office is now being reassessed. It's not necessarily going away, but there are some companies that we've talked to that they actually want to completely get rid of their reliance on any type of physical space. And so there are a lot of times technology assets are tied to a physical space, really don't have any advantage in the hybrid era. So for instance, when you're relying on the local internet connection or connections, when you're relying on the local power grid, you have limited redundancy in physical assets. You can't possibly invest enough money to create the redundancy that you can get from the cloud. So one of the things that we're strongly encouraging folks to look at is looking at your physical assets, looking at their lifecycle plan, looking at the applications that are tied to those physical assets, and trying to evaluate or create a plan for serverless environments so that it can really support and enable a mobile hybrid workforce, whether you're in the office or at home or at a hotel or at a conference, being able to be productive and engage all the assets that your organization needs to serve your mission and your clients. So those are some of the key things that we saw from the hybrid workforce era. And here's a couple final thoughts. From Forbes, again, this is that same one of the same research articles I looked at is a majority of high revenue growth companies, 63% of them have already enabled productivity anywhere workforce models, meaning that's supporting whether they are in the office or remote. And then to the contrary, it says, well, a vast majority of negative or no growth companies are still focused on where people are going to physically work. Now, what I thought was interesting is this last point, favoring all on-site or all remote rather than enabling a hybrid environment. So again, strong reasons to consider creating a great employee experience to retain top talent as well as enable productivity. And they see that, high growth companies are looking and have already enabled hybrid workforce productivity. All right, so it's not just us as a technology company saying this. There's a lot of research showing that it can actually help your bottom line and help with employee satisfaction and retention. All right, moving on to IT security standards going up. I know that sounds obvious in the world of security because it's definitely been a challenge that we've all been seeing increase over time. But let's dig in and talk about some of the key areas that we see IT security standards going up and why. All right, so first of all, passwords. Boy, they're painful. And we have some sessions that we've done on passwords, on password vaulting, as well as password management, as well as complexity around multi-factor authentication. But the problem is passwords are too easily cracked, and we've seen an increase of security compromises on the rise. I guess that's redundant, an increase of security compromises. But the problem is it's hard to remember, and so thus passwords are not complex enough. Because it's hard to remember, people repeat their passwords. Again, so it's too many to remember, too hard to remember complex ones. So oftentimes passwords aren't enough, as well as passwords are easily cracked. And so they can, even if you have complex passwords, it's something if they're used over and over again, or if they've been part of a breach in the past, they can be hacked or bypassed easy enough. So the solution is adding on multi-factor authentication. But I wanted to note that first, but hit on the cyber insurers are requiring MFA for coverage. That's one of the other components that we've seen this year. In fact, we're doing a session on November 2nd here coming up in a couple of weeks, where we're bringing in a cyber insurance broker to talk about what they're seeing in the industry and why, and some of the changes that are going to affect cyber insurance moving forward. And so if you don't watch that session, or if you haven't heard us talk about this before, I'll tell you the spoiler alert right now is what we've been told by nearly every cyber insurance and carrier that we've interacted with in the last several months is that unless you have multi-factor authentication deployed, you will either not be able to renew your cyber coverage, and or you will not be able to get any new cyber coverage. So if you're trying to submit an application for cyber liability insurance coverage, we're being told to not even submit it unless you have multi-factor authentication employed. So multi-factor authentication and single sign-on are actually one of those things that not only do they increase security, but they actually make it easier for your team to use the technology. So it's a win-win, which rarely in security do you get that. But that's one of the things that we've been trying to educate our clients on, is that in particular, MFA is no longer a nice to have. It is a need to have, especially if you want to be eligible for cyber insurance coverage. All right, identify and mitigate risk. The reason why I describe it this way is that very often we don't know what we don't know. I mean, that's a phrase that you've probably all heard, and no business can solve all problems at the same time. So one of the challenges, how do we help executives that are ultimately in charge of mitigating organizational risk? They often don't necessarily know where they are exposed from a security perspective. They might have some ideas, I'm sure, but depending on how well, if you've done some of these tasks, you may or may not be aware of all the different security risks. And there's three typical categories that we find organizations have the opportunity to improve by identifying where they are exposed and then prioritizing their execution of them. And that is in physical controls, such as security cameras, door access, etc., to administrative policies or controls, such as incident response plans or other policies that you expect, computer and internet use policies, things like that, to technical controls, such as reinforcing or enforcing some of those policies with things like multi-factor authentication, etc. So one of the ways in which we have found, and we've been working with lots of organizations to help solve this problem, is, and whether it's us or anybody else you work with, is identify execute an information security assessment and build a priority roadmap from that assessment. So where you can identify here, you have at least now uncovered, you've taken the unknown, because you don't know what you don't know, to now make it known, so you know, so you have those things aware, so you've identified those risks and the gaps, and now you can build a plan and you can start incrementally working towards addressing them. That's one of the things that we're encouraging our clients to be able to do, whether with us or a third party or other organizations. Please do that. An information security assessment and roadmap are going to be critical, and we believe very important, not only for, in particular, in the regulated space, any industry that's regulated, but even if you're just someone that you're trying to make sure that your organization is as prepared as possible going into to mitigate any type of these types of risks. An information security assessment and roadmap can be a significant help in getting you there. Right. Other technologies that we're seeing when legacy security is not enough. What I mean by that is, it's for the last 20 years, it's been pretty common to have antivirus or anti-malware, make sure your operating systems are patched and updated, you've got a firewall in place, and you have a spam filter. But the problem is bad actors have learned to bypass legacy security methods, and the reality is they're really no longer effective at keeping you protected. So one of the things that's coming, that's part of the solution that is being recommended by not only the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or is commonly referred to as CISA, CISA, but it's also being recommended by cyber insurers as far as some of the top controls that you can employ to help mitigate risk, is deploying managed and endpoint detection response. So MDR, EDR is the category of solution. It's basically an additional security layer that is added on top of the other layers that you have, but it's not necessarily a complete replacement for it. It's not you're swapping out antivirus for this. Sometimes EDR and MDR are combined with antivirus, but it's an additional layer that is being strongly recommended, and it's something that for our clients that are on our Smart Business Suite program, we are actually automatically deploying it for them going into next year. So it's one of those things that we are deploying on behalf of our clients, just because it's an important component, and we're just layering it in. It's one of those things that this has been an evolving layer of security, and it's now no longer really a nice to have. Again, we believe it's a need to have, and so we're automatically deploying it for our clients, but it's one of the things that we would strongly recommend that you take a look at if you, as far as an additional security layer moving forward. Okay, I know I'm going fast on these, and there's a lot of text and content, but again, we wanted to provide a high level of these solutions as far as things to think about. And of course, we'd be happy to have a conversation or have this conversation with your IT team, whether it's an internal team or a third party, so that you can make sure you're prepared going into next year. All right, so preparedness and administrative control. Speaking of which, another one of the challenges we've seen is many organizations do not have updated policies or plans in place that help set expectations for your team as far as like what is their desired behavior, such as like a multi-factor authentication policy, a password policy, etc. And or what if something happens? What's the plan? What's the defined response you want to have executed? So for instance, an incident response plan is one of those examples. We've actually found that cyber insurers aren't requiring that you have an incident response plan, but is one of their recommendations as part of a cyber policy. If you also talk to any organization that does those information security assessments that I just mentioned, one of the recommendations that comes out of those sessions as well is always make sure you have an incident response plan. The last thing you want to be doing as an organization is, if you're in the midst of a compromise or in the midst of a potential breach, you don't want to be figuring out the plan in those moments. You want to be executing those plans. So it's one of those things, but just have something defined. Make sure you've worked with your attorneys and your IT partners and or your insurers to make sure that you're following their recommendations to set you up for success, to be able to recover and mitigate and be able to potentially leverage your cyber insurance if necessary. So having an incident response plan, password policy, mobile device use policy, guest wireless access policy, etc. Those are all the different ones that we're talking about that we found can be gaps and can be helpful to have those defined. So again, the solution is we recommend that you evaluate, update, and or write security policies to make sure that your desired wishes and desired behavior are expressed in writing, and so that your team can be held accountable to them as well as execute them if and when necessary. All right. As we move on, one last item on the security front, which is the proactive identification of security issues. From the content that's on the screen here, one of the things that I thought about is, you've probably all watched those either spy movies or shows, and inevitably, if there's any technology involved, someone tries to plug in a USB or tries to access information they shouldn't, or access information from a location that they shouldn't. And you find that somehow the team knows about it. They're like, oh, we found this person, this information was accessed from, a different country, or they were accessing information that they shouldn't have, or they downloaded information they shouldn't have. This is an example of what I mean by proactive identification of security issues. As most organizations, especially small and medium businesses, they do not have the ability to track and or diagnose those kinds of incidents to be able to identify if someone did download that file, should they have? Did someone try and access information they shouldn't have? Did someone try and log into my account multiple times and did they fail? Are those things that I need to be concerned about or not? Are there things that I should try and do something about or not? So that's what I mean by logs from firewalls, servers, switches, access authentication attempts or failures, file access attempts or failures. Those are all different examples of how there's information available to parse and to look at and review to be able to identify whether or not you can take some proactive actions to mitigate security issues. So one of the solutions that we've found out there, that the industry has for that, is what's called a security information event management, or a SIM, SIEM. I've heard it pronounced a couple different ways. And the reason why we bring that up is what we've heard from cyber insurers, again, not to harp on the cyber insurance side again, is that cyber insurance policies haven't yet defined that this is a requirement, but we have seen on a couple of the applications where we've collaborated with our clients on that a SIM solution is something that they've got on their radar. It's out in the forecast. It's one of those recommended items. And so I could see, and as we've talked internally with our team and our security assessors, that it could be by the end of 2022 or going into 2023 that a SIM solution is not a nice to have. It ends up being a need to have to continue your cyber reliability coverage, or to be able to renew it, or to be able to get a new policy in the first place. So these are some things that we like to, again, bring and forecast with our clients. The other little tidbit I found that was interesting that came from this critical SIM statistics reference there is insider threats make up about 34% of breaches. So this is one of the reasons for a SIM too, is because those file access attempts or failures, or those authentication attempts, a solution like that would actually identify if even somebody internally was trying to do something they shouldn't do, let alone somebody externally trying to do something that they shouldn't be doing. All right, so some final thoughts on IT security standards is really what we're hoping to be able to collaborate with our clients, and what, even if you're not a client of ours or you don't work with us, what we're hoping to be able to impress upon the business community is that to prepare for and successfully combat cyber threats, a multifaceted approach is going to be required. And we recommend tapping into information from governmental agencies. The FBI and CISA do a great job of posting quality information that's researched and it's recommended. So there's actual steps and response guides, all kinds of information about that. We'll actually post some information about CISA as a follow-up. Cyber insurers, they're starting to look at data about, because there's not a great database of how to respond to this stuff and what's the real information about the data. So that's one of the reasons why we're doing a session later this month, or on November 2nd, about cyber insurance and what to look for, and how can you collaborate with your cyber insurance provider in order to make sure that you are in a place to leverage that coverage if needed. Executives, I hate to break it to you, some of this stuff gets a little technical, but if you're one of those executives that puts IT at an arm's length, we need you to step into this, not because you need to become a technical person, but because you are the owner of risk in your organization. So how can you be part of making sure that your organization is aware of the risk so that you can help identify what are the priorities to mitigate the risk that you feel are most important to your organization. That is a key role that executives need to play, even when it comes to technology, and especially when it comes to technology, as that is one of the major risks that businesses face today, especially when you consider ransomware. And finally, IT security professionals, we all need to make sure that we increase our game, and that we are able to engage with executives and make sure that we can have a collaborative approach across all facets to be able to help protect our organizations and do our job to enable productivity and availability across a hybrid workforce. All right, so that's pretty much it for today. I'd like to say join us for future events. We also have published a page that's called Forecast 2022 on our website, where we're trying to provide this information in summary about things to look for into next year. If there's any of these events that can be beneficial to others, please share them. They're always free. We want to try and help the overall business community, no matter where you are, whether or not you work with us. So if you join us for future events, mytech.com/events, and of course follow our LinkedIn or subscribe to our YouTube channel if that makes sense as well. We also have a Power User Group session coming up on October 27th, where we dig a little bit more technically into the structure and the design of Microsoft 365. And this one is going to be on data loss prevention, as well as being able to mitigate and control data being exfiltrated or leaving your organization from a security perspective. So join us for that. And thank you so much for attending. Just ran a couple minutes over, so definitely like to say if you can stick around for Q&A, by all means, please do. But if you need to take off, thank you so much. And Stephanie, let's open it up for questions.
Thanks, Nate. We did have one come in when you were talking about EDR, MDR, and how we're going to deploy that for our clients. They're asking if we're charging for that when we automatically deploy.
That is a great question. So one of the things that we've learned over the years is that, in fact, our legacy, we still have a few clients on some legacy programs. I know this is very specific to if you're a client of ours, but that we did not build in any way to adapt over during the course of an agreement. So if any of our clients are going to be impacted by that, so in our new Smart Business Suite agreements, we've actually identified that we said if we need to adapt and if we need to add additional tools in place inside of an agreement to be able to cover for things like this, that we have the ability to increase the agreement by a few percentage points in order to be able to help cover those costs, to make sure that we can still be adaptable to cover you. So if any of those things are impacted by our clients, they've already been notified earlier this month, actually, that going into next year there will be some price increases. But if you have not been notified, it's not affecting you. You'll still get the technology deployed. But you may or may not, if you haven't been notified of an increase, you're not getting an increase.
Awesome. I don't see any further questions right now.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. I can say that we will follow up with anyone who registered and attended with some of the reference material that we leverage to be able to help support the content here, because we found that Microsoft, LinkedIn, Forbes, and other CISA have provided some great content to reinforce that these are challenges that nearly every small and medium business will face going into 2022, and how to address them and how they uniquely will fit your organization or affect your organization is something where if you want help, we will provide information like this, but also please reach out to us and we'd be happy to help you with more information or to discuss further. So thank you very much for attending and hope you all have a great day.